Welcome to the Building Blocks of Bass. My name is Bob DeBoo. Really glad to be here today. I'm excited today because this is a new concept that I've never really done before. We've definitely not done it in the Building Blocks of Bass, but we're going to learn a really hip piano voicing, and this could be like a left-hand voicing, a right-hand type of thing as well. Don't let that frighten you or anything. If you don't play piano, it's totally fine. From a bass player's point of view, it's really cool to play a little bit of piano to understand what it is that we're hearing when we play with pianists, or guitar players too, obviously, any harmonic instrument. The bass is primarily a melodic instrument. We typically play one note at a time. And so what we're going to do is take those notes in the harmonic piano voicing and break it up melodically on the bass and practice that. Before we get into the voicing itself, I just want to do a little stepping back. We're going to check out the triad. So what we're going to do is transform a major triad, and in this case today we're going to do an F major triad, and we're going to transform it into this hip piano voicing. So stay tuned, we're going to get to it. If you like, there's the PDF downstairs, you can always grab that, okay? But let's look here, okay? This is nothing too crazy. This is just the F major triad. And again, this is the simplistic part. We need to know this before we can move on to the next bit of information, okay? So make sure this is cool. So let's just play through this F major triad. I'll just count it off instead of involving a metronome at this point, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's root position, first position, second position, and then root again. Second position, first position, root position. Right? Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is F, A, C, A, C, F, C, F, A. Down to the second, first, and then root again. Okay? So by root position, if inversions are a thing that you're not super familiar with, that's not a problem at all. If we're thinking of the triad, in this case, this is the first, third, and fifth note of the major scale. So we're thinking F, A, and C. To make it an inversion, we'll play the lowest note as an A, so we'll do third, fifth, root. And in this case, it's right here, and I've got the inversions kind of written underneath, so it would be A, C, F. And then second inversion is you just do that the next step. So you put the fifth on the bottom. So C, F, A, and then again, root position, right? Cool. Okay, so nothing like too crazy about that, right? Hopefully everybody's good. Let's try this though. What I'd like to do is to, instead of playing it the way that I had it written out rhythmically, it's a little bit more hip if we take those three note groupings, F, A, C, F, C, F, A, and put them together all in eighth notes. We end up with this like syncopated kind of 3/4 type of sound rhythmically. Okay, so I am going to use my metronome on this job. Let's put it right here. I'm going to call this beats 2 and 4. Okay. So we're just doing the same thing that we just did. We're just smushing it all together now into straight eighth notes. Like running eighth notes, not straight, but I'm probably going to play them voiced straight. Let's try it together. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. 4, 1. So 1, 2, 3, again. So you probably noticed in that time I gave it a little bit more of lilt, put in the triplet, 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 triplet. Just give it a little bit more of a swinging type of sense, but if you play it straight, and we can do all that today too. And that's what's up, okay? So we need to have that under our fingers because we're going to manipulate that into this piano voicing, and I'm going to show you how this all works. We're going to put it together. This is just the first ingredient, or second ingredient, however you want to call it. So let's do the same thing, except now we're going to flip the shape, okay? And this is stuff you can practice on any triad, whatever key, major, minor, augmented, diminished, chordal triads, everything. So just different permutations of the scale, or the triad in this case. Okay, so in this case, we're going to play the triad where it's going down. So C, A, F, right? C, A, F. Got in the wrong key, but that's what's up. First inversion, second inversion, root, second. So we're doing the same thing, we're just flipping the shape. Okay, so it's going to sound like this: 2, 3, 4. Again. Make sense? So it's a different type of thing, and of course there's a lot of different permutations you can do to these triads, your scales, everything, but these are just the ones that we're doing today. So I got some like baby hair on me or something. Let's try it again. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. So you can see every last note that we're doing gives you that clue to whether it's inverted or whether, or whether it's a root position. For instance, here we're ending on that F, and that's telling us that it's a root position triad. We're getting to this A, so we've flipped everything around. We're getting to that A, it's telling it's first inversion, second inversion, root, second, first, back to root again. So that's the kind of thing you can practice like all day long. You really want to be able to do that, and we're just keeping it in a fairly limited range to make it accessible for everybody. So of course, do it across your instrument, do it on other instruments, everything. So all right, so now here's our first rub. This is like a little bit of more of the spice that we're going to put into our dish here. We're going to take that same triad, okay, the F major triad. So we've got F, A, C, otherwise known as the root, the third, and the fifth. And what we're going to do is lower that fifth by a half step, okay? So instead of playing C, we're going to play a B natural, which is either going to give us the flat 5, you could call it flat 5, you could call it sharp 11. I'm probably just going to refer to it as flat 5 in this case. It's really kind of circumstantial, like situational, I mean. Whether or not you want to call that a sharp 11 or a flat 5, it's not a big deal. The sound of it is what we need to have happy, right? So we've got F, A, C. That's our major triad, of course. So let's drop that C down a half step. We've got F, A, B natural, right? So it's a different sound, right? So, but it's very closely related to that major triad, which is where I'm going with this, like how we're going to manipulate that major triad into this piano voicing. So hang on. So we've got the root position version of that. So F, A, B. Then the first inversion of that would be A, B, F, right? A, B, F, and we've got that tritone rub in there, so there's a little bit of fun already built into that. Now, second inversion would be B, F, A. B, F, A, right? Now, again, root position for our top one. Right? So let's go through it. Well, again, we'll do root position, so F, A, B natural, A, B, F, that's our first inversion. Second inversion is B, F, A, and then again, F, A, B natural. So I like to think of this as related still to that F major triad. We're just changing out one note, and it can make a big difference, right? So right, so that's root position first, second, back to root, and then we'll go back down. So I want to try the exact same exercise we did on the major scale, or the major triad, except now we're supplanting that B natural, that flatted fifth, for the fifth in the major triad. So here's what that's going to look like. Let's do it all together, and then I'll add in the metronome. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back to second inversion, first, root. Again, so this is root, first, second, root, second, first, root. Okay, let's try it with a metronome, okay? And I've got this going on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. Again. it's kind of got that, it's already got that little bit of built in, like, I don't want to use the word evilness, but hey, you know, that tritone kind of sound in there. But what's interesting is that it's not just that tritone. There's also the whole step between A and B natural. That, especially in a piano voicing, that's going to add a little bit of rub right in there. Anytime we have half steps, major seconds, and then fourths or tritones, like in fifths, you know, ask a piano player, but I know that that's kind of a thing, you know, in the piano voicings to make it really sound super crunchy, hip, modern, whatever you want to call it. It's not even that modern at this point, but it's something that we should know. And again, I'm approaching this as a bass player. If I hear this, I want to understand how to answer that harmonically accurately, okay? So it's always ear training with this as well, okay? So let's try, oh, we just did this one. Let's try flipping it now, okay? So the same idea we did on the major triads, except now we're going to flip it. Let's try it out of time first, and then we'll try it with the metronome a few times through. So we're starting on B, and we're flipping that root triad. So it's B, A, F. First inversion is like this. F, B, A, right? This is the root. That's our flatted fifth. That's third. Even though there's a whole step there, it's still a third in this case, right? Okay, flip it into second inversion. So A, F, B natural, right? A, and then back to root again. So B natural up here now. And again, we're just staying in this register just for today to shed. Okay, so second inversion, first inversion, we'll have the F on the top, B on the top for the root inversion. Got it? All right, let's practice it now. So I'm calling this 2 and 4. It's set at 50 right now if you're interested in that kind of thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. I got to start that over. 1, 2, 3, go. 2, 3, again. That's a fun one. I need to shed that one way, way more. Let's loop it through maybe just a couple more times. So 1, 2, 3, go. 3, again. Cool. So it's a different kind of shape that we don't come across too often. Do you know what I mean? Just naturally, like, I don't know. It's a different thing that not a lot of people shed. I'm trying to say it that way, I think. So let's look at our next ingredient. So now we've taken the F major triad, root third fifth, and we've turned it into this flat 5 triad, F, A, B natural. If you do this in different keys, definitely you should. We're going to focus on this one key just to keep everything kind of contained for today. But please put this in different keys, and we're also going to talk about how to shed this in real life, like how to practice soloing over this. So this is just the nuts and bolts, okay? So stay tuned, and we're going to hit the piano too, okay? So the next step in this adventure is to take the F major triad, and we're going to add a major seventh to it. So we're amending the triad. We're adding to it. We're not taking anything away at this point. We're going to add the major seventh. If major seventh is a thing that you are less familiar with, you know, people talk about major sevenths, minor sevenths. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that a seventh of any type is just either a half step or a whole step below the root. And what I mean is you don't need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's way up here. That's a big interval, right? And it is, but you'll get more cozy with that the more you think about it. But also, the seventh is just right below the root. So if this is my root, F, the seventh, in the major seventh in this case, it's just a half step below it. So if I get up to this F, it's just a half step below it, right? So F, E natural. Okay, all right. So I'm sure that's all cool. Let's add in our exercise now with the major seventh inside of our triad. So what we're gonna do, and bear with me, looks a little bit funky, but it's really just the same thing that we've done with the major triad. Remember that we did root, and I'm going back to the natural fifth now. Okay, we're gonna bring back that flat 5, but right now we're doing F, A, C, and adding an E. So third inversion is our first one. So we're going to play E, F, A, F, A, C, A, C, E. And this is our third inversion because we're starting with the seventh on the bottom. And then root again. Third, second, first, root, and then third again, where you start on the seventh. Let's try it again. And then back down. Got it? So I'm going to slow this down just a hair so I don't embarrass myself on national YouTube or international YouTube. What's up, UK? Sorry. All right, so I slowed that down 45 beats per minute. We're still thinking of it as 2 and 4. And I'm just going to make these straight. I'm not worried about swinging these right now. I just want to get the notes happening, okay? Try it with me. So 1, 2, 3, go. 2, 3, again. Third, root, first, second, third, root, third, second, first, root, third. Wow, I really didn't think I was going to be able to say that and play it. But here we are. 1, 2, 3, one more time. Cool. Okay, so a thing to note, there are a bunch of things that we're talking about. Something to note, though, is these intervals. Remember we talked about half steps being crunchy, whole steps being crunchy in piano voicings? Check this out. The E and the F, there's our half step, right? Between E and A, we've got a fourth between the E and the F on top. Again, that's that half step type of idea. But we're going to keep moving on it. So notice the half step between E and F, and then the fourth between E and A, but we'll talk more about that, okay? Let's try this same exercise, and again, this is something you should do in every key, major, minor, augmented, diminished, whatever arpeggios that you deal with, chordal arpeggios, we'll talk more about that too. So now we're going to flip this over, okay? So we're going to start with third inversion of the F major 7th arpeggio, all right? So that just means A, F, E, C, A, F. It's going to be really hard to say this. I doubt I can do this. Let's do this out of time. Just flip it around, okay? We'll do out of time first for me. Let's try it. So here's our third inversion, so we can play A, F, E. And then the highest note, another way to think about it is the highest note goes to the next note that would be in the arpeggio. So if we start on A, the next highest note is C. So we'll start there for the next one. The next highest note will be E. And then the next highest note will be F. And A, right? And then C, A, F. Okay, so again from the bottom, A, F, E. That's our third inversion. That's root. That's first, second, third, right? Okay, you get it. Let's practice it just a few times through. 1, 2, 3, go. So already it's got this kind of like a little bit mysterious kind of thing because we're ending on that E and it sounds like a, what do you say, like a Locrian type of vibe. There's more to that. There's more coming up about that, all right? So hold on. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, go. Third, second, first, root, third. All right, cool. And if that's hanging you up at all, that's totally okay. It's totally okay. You can always pause, rewatch this. If you're watching not live right now, you can always go back and revisit it. It's no big deal, right? Okay. So here's the thing. Let's introduce some of the piano chords, okay? So here's the chord that we're going to get to, and I'll just add this sucker in. It's the first time doing this, so hopefully this is cool. All right, here's my little Rhodes. Shout out to Adam Manis. This is the brown clown from a long time ago. All right, so here is our F major triad, right? This is F, A, C. That's what we shedded earlier, right? F, A, C, and then in first inversion, A, C, F, and then C, F, A is our second inversion triad, right? Okay, back to the root. So what we did to that first triad, right, is we turned it from a major triad like this, we moved the fifth down a half step. So automatically we end up with this, right? F, A, and B natural. If we take away that A, what do you notice? We see an F and a B, right? So if I throw a G on the bottom of that sucker, that gives me a G dominant. That's like a seventh chord right there, right? That's G, F, and B natural. So that gives me like a dominant chord without any extensions or anything else like that, right? Okay, cool. Now, there's the concept of the tritone substitution, right? So if I do a tritone and I'm just gonna say it, G to D flat, that's a flat 5, that's a tritone. If I use that on the bottom of my chord, that is also a dominant seventh chord, right? That's D, F, and B natural. You could call it C flat, but I'm not about to call that C flat, all right? That's B natural. It's how it sounds, not theoretically what we're calling it, okay? Right, so that's a dominant chord, right? It looks like that froze up a little bit. Hopefully everything's cool on that end. All right, so again, here's our triad, and we move that to this. Then what we did is we made it a seventh chord, right? So if we think about that, this E natural against the G would be a G13, okay? Against the D, that would be a sharp 9. If we're thinking G7 and D flat 7, okay? So let me introduce this now real quick, and then we're gonna shed something based around that, okay? So I know this is a lot of notes. It's really just what we practiced, or it's really close to what we just practiced. And I'm about to change up one more thing, and then we'll see how it all works together. So the very first thing that we had here, this guy, the arps stacked, is what we just practiced, except the C is moved down to a B. So here is our fourth voicing, our piano voicing that we're trying to shed today. We're moving that C down to a B natural, right? But everything else here is the same. This is that seventh of the F major, and if I put the bass, right? So that makes it a dominant chord. It's dominant still because it's F and B natural. This 13th is right there, and then we have this 9th right here, right? So it's a whole step above this G that I'm playing in the bass, right? So again, here's our fourth, and then here's a tritone, here's a half step, and here's a major second. So that gives it that crunchy kind of sound, right? If I invert that, if you look at this arp stacked here next, right there, I'm putting the 7th on the bottom. Note that, because that's something we're going to shed in a second here, okay? So F, A natural, B natural, E natural, with that on the bottom. With G on the bottom, that still gives me that same G7th chord. You'll see, like, I've got the G there, but if I change the root now to a D flat, that gives me a really hip chord, right? This is like this is the 7th, this is the flat 13, and this is the 3rd of D flat, I misspoke. That's the 3rd because we're in D flat, so F is the 3rd, A is the flat 13, B natural is the 7th, and what's this note? This is the sharp 9 on top. But that's still our same voicing, right? Okay? If we keep this voicing in the right hand, I'm going to change the bass note now. I put a B there, so I'm going in order of these chords that are down there, right? So I've got a B on the bottom. This gives me a B, it's a good voicing for a B minor 7 flat 5, otherwise known as the half diminished chord. If that makes, right? That's cool? So the same thing, if I put a D on the bottom of that, this gives me a D minor, because that's F, A, B natural. It gives me a D minor 6-9 chord, because here is the 6th, here's the 9th. Okay? I know I'm kind of blowing through this super fast. There's conversations we could have about all of this. Ask any questions in the comments if you like. If I do the same thing and put an E on the bottom, right? It gives me a funky chord too. This is a flat 9, 4th, 5th, and then root. So it gives me that, what you see there on the screen, E7 sus flat 9. Really hip sound. What we're going to focus on today though is just these two. and that kind of, I know it looks funky, but we're going to look at the G13 from the 7th. So this is F, A, B, E, but with this on the bottom, right? And if we think about that as the 7th from the voicing here, we can keep this in mind and practice it in different keys in an easier fashion. Okay, so if I think instead from the 7th and jump up here, that gives me a different sound too. It's a little bit higher. You can do any of the inversions, but we're going to think about from, you see where I have the notes in red there, either from the 7th, so in G, that's an F, and in G, the 3rd is a B, right? So we have those two different voicings. Then we'll do the same thing, where we just change the root, and here is the power of the bass player, right? We change the root, we change the chord, right? That's up to us. But that's, you know, you have to be really careful with that. That's a lot of power. But, you know, literally I just changed this from a fairly consonant, it's dominant, right? But it sounds stable, into this sucker, which really wants to move a little bit more just because of that dissonance, right? Okay, so same thing if I invert that, or not invert it, but put the 7th, the 3rd of G on the top, that B at the top, and I end up with that. Or if I do D flat, right, that crunchiness, right? Cool. So what I want to do here is we'll keep some of these voicings going. I'm going to try my best to hit the sustain pedal, and we'll jam on this a little bit. But we need to back it up just a second and check out this next exercise, okay? So here is the voicing that I was just doing on the piano in the right hand when I was playing some bass. But here's the voicing broken up, and we'll see the similarities between what we've already practiced just put together. So here's our last ingredient, right? This is the voicing, the harmonic voicing. Harmonic means played, a bunch of notes played at once, broken up into melodic fashion, okay? So here's what we have. It's the same, that F major 7th arpeggio starting on the 7th, but instead of going to the 5th, instead of going to C, we're gonna go to B natural. So we end up with this, E, F, A, B, right? So we get this half step, here's a major 3rd, and then a whole step, and then a 4th, right? If we keep going. So let's look, this is 3rd inversion, E, F, A, B. If we start on the root, it's F, A, B natural, E. I wanted to say C. F, A, B, E, that 4th. And really the idea is we want to get really cozy with this and be able to hear it and solo over it a little bit, and also to understand, again, this is, you know, how we interact with harmonic instruments from a bass player's point of view, or if you're a sax player, a trumpet player, whatever, if you're blowing and there's chords underneath you, you want to be able to discern what it is you're hearing, right? So this is a common voicing, and that's why we're shedding it, okay? So let's go through this just a step at a time, and then we'll put it into tempo, okay? Please leave comments, any questions, suggestions, any insights on this too. I'm all game, but right now we're just shedding this. I'll check it out, all the comments, once we wrap up, okay? So let's play through this, and we'll just do it at a time. We'll do it a section at a time. So 3rd inversion first, starting on the 7th of F, so E, F, A, B. So now let's move our bottom note up one step in those 4 note groupings, right? So F, A, B, E, and then now start on A. So here is our first inversion, so A. Instead of C, we're going to B to E, F. So there's our half step on the top. Right? It's a thing to it. So now second inversion, instead of it starting on C, we're starting on our flat 5, right? Second inversions always start on the 5th, or have the lowest note as the 5th, but we've changed it to a flat 5. That's our voicing that we just did a second ago. That's the same voicing, right? So we're just breaking it up melodically onto the instrument. So, and then that would put us back to 3rd inversion again. Okay? And then we'll start going back down, because otherwise we would need to go into a different register. So to keep everything in the same register that we've been shedding, we'll go back down. So that's first root position, 3rd inversion. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. I want to end on 3rd inversion, right there. Then 2nd, then 1st, then root again, and then third again. All right, so let's try this out. Let's try it in tempo now, okay? Just to shed this, and it's just one way to practice this. Of course, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Just trying to find some concrete stuff that we can shed today. So that's why we're doing this, okay? If you have any ideas of different ways to practice this, please leave it in the comments, send me a message. You can always, I'm pretty easy to find, bob@openstudiojazz.com, okay? So here we go. Let's try this out. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and third, back down to second, first, root, third, and then I was mixing all that up. You can actually loop this and it works pretty well. Let's go for that. Let's try it, see if we can't do it a few times through, okay? Again, 1, 2, 3, go. Third, root, first, second, third, second, first, root, and then back to third. You doing this? Cool. If this is like, if that tempo and that like idea is cool, you can practice this in a multitude of ways. Like, in triplets, and you hear that now we're in groups of 4, whereas earlier we were in groups of 3 and playing those as 8th notes. So you end up with a da 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 against 4, so like 3 over 4. If you change this into groups of 4, think about it in triplets, then you end up with, you know, like 3 over 4 instead. So it can be kind of hip to practice that way too. All right, so let's do our due diligence here and flip this around, okay? So here we are, it's the same notes, just with a slight twist to it. So we're doing the third inversion arpeggio. This is our major 7th flat 5, which is a really, long way to call this sound, okay? So let's check this out. Let's get it under our fingers and we can talk about it in a minute. So we've got B. This is our third inversion. So on top, we're gonna have a B and our lowest note's gonna be E. So B, A, F, E. I like to think about the top note moving up into our next tetrachord, groups of 4, whatever you wanna call it. So our next note up would be an E. So we're going from B to E, F, A, B, A, because now we're going back down, F, E, B. That's just how I like to think about it, right? So we all figure things out differently, but it's all experiential, so you have to practice, you have to shed this stuff. Okay, so let's put that through a few times through. Again, we can do this where it makes a good loop, okay? So let's try this out. So 1, 2, 3, go. Root, first, second, third, second, first. All right, so I'm trying to be hip and talk and say the inversions, and it's totally messing me up. Let's try it again. So 1, 2, 3, go. Root, first, second, third, second, first, root. Again. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep that going, and I'm going to try playing one of these piano voicings while we shed that, okay? All right, so I'm going to do it first. I'm going to think about this maybe as G is our bass, as our root note now. So we're thinking about G, 13. If you see a 13, like listed as a 13 like that, that kind of implies that there's a 9 in it. So it's got a 13 and it's got a natural 9. So I'm going to call that note. But here, I'm going to do my best. I'm trying to hit the sustain pedal. I'm going to put the F on the bottom of the voicing here. So I'm going to start here. So that's my voicing, F, A, B natural, E. And then let's try this exercise on top of that. See if it'll sustain. Okay, you ready? So I'm going to hit it. 1, 2, 3, go. And it's already gone. So I think I skipped one in there, and then my chord didn't sustain as long as I was looking for either. But that's the idea, is this fits over this. We're a little bit low for like to think of it as a solo type of shape. But we can also just bring this straight back to the bass, right? If I think about G being on the bottom of this chord and then play that voicing, then it kind of like keeps that, if you don't have a piano to play on or whatever, or have something like a drone can really help with this too, to hear the bottom. G, to hear that as the bottom, right? Okay, so that's what's up with that. I want to just add this back in here now. So if we think about the shape that we're doing, here's F, and here's what I have on the graphic below. This is F, A, B natural, E, and then an F again, right? But if I call this the root, if I call G the root of this chord, because I'm doing different inversions, I'm thinking about this shape, but starting, say, on F, just in a higher register, that's the same thing. That shape, but with a G on the bottom, right? I can do the same thing if I'm thinking about it from starting on the third. And I just want to make these like really quick because we're going to bounce them around in a couple different keys before we split and go into the comments, okay? So hang with me. If I'm thinking G7, what's the shape if I'm starting on the 7th, or G13? If I'm starting on the 7th, I want to start on F, but I want to use that same shape that we've been shedding. So F, A, B natural, E, right? If I start from the third, what you see in that second graphic over there. If I start from the third, it's going to be this type of shape. So up a fourth, then a half step, and then a major third. Right? There are those other shapes, those other inversions in there, but we're not worried about those just at the moment. So again, if I'm on G and starting on the 7th, I've got a major third, a whole step, and then up a perfect fourth. If I'm on G and I want to do my second shape, that other shape over there, I'm going to start on the 3rd. Make sense? So I have a little note over there too on that second graphic. Sorry, I don't know which way to point. The second graphic is that you could think of G13 also as B minor 7 flat 5. Okay, just to get up above the voicing really quick. If I did this, if I do something like that, but then I think about it as being with a D in there as well. I was just thinking of that more or less as a minor 7th flat 5, which would be B, B natural, D, F, and then an A, which you can always do on the bottom as well. So that voicing also works, because if this is a B half diminished, remember what we did, you'd have to scroll back, but that same voicing works on a half diminished chord if you think about it from the root. I mean, that's the quick and dirty way to do it, right? So, okay, cool. And let me check out this now. Before we move on to the altered chord, how that works in the shape again, let's just bounce this into another key. So let's say B flat. B flat 13 is going to come up a ton when you're jamming, right? So what's that voicing? If we think about it from the 7th, so here's our root. Oh, I can't play. That's B flat, right? 7th, 9, 3rd, 13th. That's that same shape. Here's our major 3rd, whole step, and then a perfect 4th. Sorry to all my pianists, I'm hitting the sustain pedal. It's for me, right? So if I do that shape from the 3rd, that's my resulting sound. But here's the bottom of it, right? Right, so you can shed those different exercises that we did earlier over that sound, and you'll have some fun stuff to add in. A note, when you're shedding this stuff, try to keep the triad sound inside of, or some different other color notes in there too, to not just play this sound the whole time. You don't want to overuse this spice, right? It's just a shape, it's a sound that's going to work, especially on a 13th chord, that's going to sound nice. And what I mean by that is, like, if you did like a something like that, adding in some of the other notes that are cool inside of the chord, scale-wise, arpeggio-wise, whatever. Okay, so that was from the 7th. If we think about it from the 3rd now, so 3rd, remember that shape? It was up a 4th, so I'm going to try to do this without really looking at the piano. And it's just going to go a little bit off the screen there, but this is D, G, A flat, and C. Here's our perfect 4th, our half step, and then our major 3rd. And again, the root's here, right? But if we're thinking from the 7th, all of that gives us that color, right? So it's a little different. Okay, before we got to boogie, let's do the same thing with the altered chord, okay? So it's the same idea. We're thinking 7ths and 3rds, right? So the same voicing. If I do the tritone substitution, but do the same, like if I'm trying to play D flat in the bottom here. So I'm really struggling trying to make this happen. F, A, B natural, and E, right? Which you can see in that graphic right there. If I play them harmonically, like all together, I get a really cool piano voicing. This is kind of low in the register. You might hear it higher. I guess it's cool, it works actually, right? So that's our 3rd. Flat 13, 7th, and sharp 9 again. So if I think about it from the 3rd here, from D flat, right on the instrument. That kind of vibe, right? It's all in there. Right, using some other things inside of the scale too, some different shapes, you know, whatever. It's just this voicing type of idea. We want to be able to recognize it when we hear it and be able to speak on it on our instruments, right? Okay, so that was from the 3rd, right? Now let's do the same thing from the 7th of D flat now. So we've got the 7th, the sharp 9, that's up a perfect 4th, half step, and then a major 3rd. Gives us that job, right? So we're hearing the flat 13th on top. So really hearing, like, getting that sound in your ear, that's gonna really be cool once it happens, right? Right, so thinking from the 7th, which is exactly what we were shedding earlier. It sounds like an exercise when you do it that way, right? When you just think about it in groups like that, but you break it up using some scales, some different type of soloistic ideas, and it'll get you where you want to go, right? Let's move this into just a couple other keys really quick. We did B flat for the 13th chord, right? So let's do the same thing with this altered chord real quick. How would we do that in B flat? Let's start by thinking of the 3rd, okay? So if B flat is our root, I want to find the 3rd. So what's the 3rd of B flat? Right? So what do we do next? I realize it's a little bit, here, let me bounce this down. So this is B flat, D natural, G flat is our flat 13th, and the 7th, and then the sharp 9 on top. But if we're starting from here, that gives us that shape. I'm going to just bounce over and do the same thing from the 7th now. So I'm at B flat. What do we get? Right? That same shape. So up a perfect 4th, a half step, up a major 3rd, and then invert that. right? Makes sense? Cool. Okay. So there's some good exercises to practice over these sounds. Practice, if you've got a piano nearby, practice these voicings. It's great to practice this stuff. Get it in our ears. So, I mean, even if you're not a piano player, we want to be cool, understanding like what it is we're hearing, and then be able to put that on the instrument, whether it's a bass, electric, upright, guitar, whatever. The sound is what's up. So just get used to what that sounds like. Next time you're jamming with somebody, you hear that chord, I know what it is. All right. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to play like those exercises, but by doing those exercises, we kind of get that under our fingers and also in our ears because we're doing those exercises. Okay, cool. All right, so let's head on over to the comments. Thanks for shedding with me. Let's head over to the comments, see what we got. All right. So, yeah, as always, my buddy Dave is back. Dave's always with me. I love it. Good to see you, Dave. Glad you're here. We're going to do visitation. I didn't forget, okay? Harriet's here. What's up, Harriet? Good to see you. Damien's back. What's up, Damien? Oh, yeah, Nettleson was talking about the blue Monda bass. Whatever. It's like a little P bass throwback 60s reissue type of thing or something. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, and Dudufada, what's up? Colleen's here. Always good to see Colleen. Yes, yes. Okay. Oh, and Colleen, I was asking if you were on the ukulele shedding with us, and I missed this, your pun. That's very funny. That's very funny. I like that. Ukabetcha. I like that. I missed it. Oh, yeah, in Alexandria, we call this the pork chop. That's the doghouse in the corner. She's sitting over there. She's a little rental right now. My bass is finally in the shop for anybody that follows what I do and the Zoom classes on the Bass All Access Pass. Had a lot of buzzes happening lately, so finally got it into the shop. Anyways, so the doghouse, the pork chop. Right. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. All right, here we go. We're getting into some of the comments here. Let me see where I left off. Okay. Oh yeah, and Damien, we had to pay him a lot to say this, but he said it here in the live chat. So Damien is talking about the Bass All Access Pass, which if you're not hip, check it out. There's a good link downstairs. If you're already a part of it, let folks know, because it's what a cool offer, right? The Bass All Access Pass, monthly subscription type of fee. It's worth every cent and then more. Okay. Okay, and Malta, I was trying to ask if I was pronouncing your name correctly, and I am absolutely an American, so I take no offense. I hope to hear you say it someday, and I can learn how to say it. Okay. All right, Damien. It's not snowing in Phoenix. Yeah, exactly. Although, the last time I was in Phoenix, it was pretty cold. I think I might have seen a few flakes. I don't know. Anyways, Musical Instrument Museum, right? Beautiful, beautiful place. Okay, here we go. Get into some of the details. Will Snyder. Jocko played a lot of keys. Also great for all guitar players as well. Yes, absolutely. So you'll hear you won't hear every upper, musician, established, well-known musician talk about playing the keys, but it's such a thing to be able to sit down and hear all of that simultaneously, harmonically, versus what we do on the instrument. So yeah, absolutely. Study the keys, find some books, check out Open Studios courses. Of course, it's a vault of just beautiful information. Okay, Colleen. Okay, and I don't know where we were in the part of the lesson, but so this is a little asynchronous. If it's just a triad, it's a flat 5. If it's a 7th chord, it's a sharp 11. Ah, cool. That works for me. I'll take that. So thinking about this, we were going from the F major triad, and then I turned it into a flat 5, right? But if we're thinking about it in this shape, in the E, F, A, B, and thinking about the root being F, then yeah, you could call that a sharp 11. I still see folks call it a flat 5 though sometimes too. So, okay. Ted, I'm so sorry I missed when you were jumping in or what we were talking about. And Ted says, what exactly is happening here? I have no comment to that. I said a lot of things. I said a lot of things since then. I have no idea where you were jumping in. I'm sorry, Ted. If you have further questions, I'm here right now checking all these comments. Otherwise, find me, Bob, at openstudiojazz.com. Check out the PDF. My email's on there too. And check the PDF. Maybe that will answer some of the questions that you're here. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to, Havarslok's official. Okay, not necessarily. You can have a minor 7 flat 5, which is a 7th chord. Okay, so I don't understand what exactly you were commenting on, maybe that I said, or maybe this was in Colleen's. But yeah, there are different ways to say all of this, and that's honestly not what I'm here to do. What I was here to do today, yeah, we can think about it theoretically, but to really kind of understand the sound of the voicing, and then how it works, and then how we can put it on the instrument. So yeah, of course, we have to kind of call it certain things for it to, you know, kind of make sense theoretically. And I'm with you. Also, flat 5 can both be, and sharp 11 can both be extensions. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and we're just talking about inversions, right? So if I'm here, and if I'm playing an A down here, and I'm on a bass, right, and I'm keeping in this register just for our shedding purposes today, if I'm playing an A down here, that's not an extension in my view, that's the second note of the major scale. But if I think about it inverted, right, or up an octave displacement is what I'm trying to say, then it's a ninth, right? But down here, I might think of it more as a second. So, all right, so let's see. Probably wouldn't want to call a diminished triad 1 flat 3 sharp 11. Oh, okay, so you're talking about Colleen's comment, I think. So, okay, glad y'all are getting into it. Fight it out, duke it out in the comment section, okay? Okay, so Dave, I think it's still talking about the comments here. It really depends on the context of the chord you're playing. Yes, Dave, always on point. It really does depend on the context, and what you're calling the root too, I think, and where it's moving, where it's coming from, what key you're in, etc., what's in the melody. There are a lot of variables here. So it really depends on the context of the chord you're playing. If it's a dominant 7th, you can think about the 11th stacked on top and raised a half step. That's hip. Yeah, I like that idea too. I don't think about it as the 11th raised a half step. I usually think of it coming from the other direction. But yeah, you can have, if the 5th is in the scale, and you're using, like in this case, if I'm in F and I'm thinking C, but I'm playing a B, then I would call that B a sharp 11, because I have the C in there as well. But if I'm not playing the C, then I can call it whatever I want. You know what I mean? It could be one or the other. But again, it's contextual, right? And maybe that's what you're saying here. You could have both a 5th and a raised 11th, and this is why I need to read the comments before I comment on them. So yeah, Dave's always on it. All right, yep, here we go. Yep, this was the money right here. As soon as that G goes on the bottom, it's now a dominant 7th magic. Super fun, right? Oh, nice. All right, I'm liking you, Harvas. I like you. That's a fun comment. G7 Summit. That's really funny. I like all these puns in here. Please keep them coming. All right. Thanks, Colleen. Good to see you. We'll see you probably tomorrow at the rhythm guided practice session, I'm sure. Cool. Damien, thanks for saying thanks. Appreciate you. Happy practicing. Malte. No, I'm sorry, man. Or, I don't know if you're a man. I'm sorry. Malta, good to see you. Always fun to practice with you. Please come back. All right. Javier saying, what's up? Somebody's laughing. Colleen's laughing at me. That's hilarious. My take is if there's a flat 5, there's no natural 5. If it's sharp 11, yeah. And coming from a piano man, right? Yeah. All right. That'll work. I'll take it. Okay. Well, that's good, piano man. There we go. Yeah. Yep. And we were kind of saying the same thing, I believe. Okay. Let's see what's up. Study with Ted Howe. Cool. Berkeley grad. He taught these. Yeah. Yep. Very cool. There's all kinds of good stuff. And I mean, there is, from a bass player's point of view, from a non-piano player's point of view, there's a bunch of resources out there. Find some cool voicings, ask your friends, ask your piano playing buddies, show me a piano voicing. This is just, I mean, this is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is like us on a plane heading towards the iceberg. Like, we have not even begun it, you know, like there's so much more in there. This is just one instance of a piano voicing that comes up kind of a lot. So it's really cool to be able to hear it and understand it. That's what we're talking about. Okay. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, Colleen. Right on. All right, Damien, if you're coming up with this harmony on the spot, which degree of the 7th chord do you think of building it from? Okay, Damien. If you're coming up with this harmony on the spot, which degree of the 7th chord do you think of building it from? Either from the 7th or from the 3rd. That's what I was alluding to in our practice. So if I'm down here with a G in the bass, then I might Dave is like, very cool and dense session. That's, yeah, it's pretty dense, right? I had, yeah, coming from the transcription. So, but anyways, if I've got a G on the bottom, and I'll think about the shape from the 7th. That might be the quickest and easiest way to conceptualize that. Then from the 3rd, it's going to be a slightly different shape here on the bass, right? We've got that 4th half step, major 3rd type of vibe, right? If it's from the D flat, same thing, from the 7th and the 3rd, but the shapes are going to be slightly different, right? Right? From the 3rd, but they're still the same notes that I'm playing, just changing the root and changing how I'm thinking of it. I'm not sure if that is exactly what you were asking or what, Damien, but hopefully that helps. All right, Tim's got my back. Tim's like, that was fantastic. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Tim. Whew, make me feel better. I like your avatar too. That's cool. Okay, Chris. Okay, super lesson, but I get overwhelmed by the possibilities. If you're going to tackle some of these as part of your daily practice, how do you approach? Dominant one day, minor another day, etc. Yes, absolutely. It was a lot of information shoved into today, but that's why I have the exercises there to kind of think about how you're practicing them. So take those shapes. Take the shape of move that around, right? And think about different roots that you have going on. Maybe the initial idea that I had here was to put a drone on and change it, change the bottom of the chord that I'm thinking about and play these shapes on top of it. You could do that and then move it to the next one, move it to the next key, move it to the next key. Just hit them in all the keys and get really quick about thinking about what that shape is. If I'm trying to do a 13th chord, let's just say that like the G 13th, make sure you can hit all of those shapes from the 7th and then from the 3rd. The 7th and then the 3rd. You can find the other shapes in there as well, but then move that, say, into C13, F13, B flat 13, right? That's kind of the idea. There's a lot of different ways to practice it. If you come up with something cool, let me know. I'd love to hear, Chris. And thanks for being here. Always very cool. And here's Dave. Very cool and dense session today. You're welcome. Is that like a backhanded? No, you're Dave. I know you're not messing with me, or maybe you are. I don't know. All right, Damien, got it. That makes sense. Good, excellent. Okay, Piano Man's back. Thanks, Bob. I enjoy the content and really dig your style. Hey, thank you, Piano Man. Very cool of you. All right, we'll see you next time, okay? All right. Oh, I missed Mohammed. Greetings. Greetings to you. Good to see you. Mario, my man, what's up? Mind-blowing session. Those ARPs stacked. That's a lot of notes in there, right? But we got to keep up. So some piano players just dissed me online the other day. I won't tell you who, but I work for them. They're like, Bob, you can't talk. What do you know about upper extensions, man? What are you talking about? We'll try to talk about upper extensions, you bass player. So here we are, talking about upper extensions. Peter. Gonna get in trouble. Yeah, the drone is a great idea. Absolutely. Didn't think of that. Yeah, so, yeah, and the idea, if you have a synth with like a hold button too, that can play multiple notes, hold that, play the chord, play over it. Use a drone, play over that. And if you use, I don't want to drop the name of it, but if you have any drone apps that can play multiple notes stacked, hit the root, the 3rd, and the 7th on it, right? So that'll help, okay? Good, that's the main part. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Chris, there's a heart. Luis. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So can you play something to exemplify in context? Yeah, so if I go back here, and this will be the last thing I do, I promise. Andrew, I won't keep you any longer than this, okay? So if I'm here, let's say we're doing the G7, the G13 type of shape, all right? And I'll just, for the sake of today, I'll try to make this happy. If I use that shape, that's 7, 9, 3, 13, right? But while that's happening, right? So I'm mixing and matching. It's like kind of riffy, you know what I mean? Like, it gives you some of that shape that you can kind of blow over and come up with lines in that way, right? And that was me more or less. I wasn't thinking specifically from the 7th or the 3rd necessarily, but, thinking about that G13 type of shape. All right? So hopefully that helps, Luis. Putting it in context. You can also do this just like shed out of time. Like if if I'm thinking this G13, where I'm thinking of that shape, moving it around a little bit, you know, that was just, again, that's really disjointed type of sounding, but getting that sound in your ear and putting it all together to make that chord, right? Cool. Hopefully that was useful, Luis. Let me know, how do you shed this? Does it make sense? Yeah? All right, Colleen, yay, Bob, pianists aren't to be end all, to be all end all. Yeah, exactly, right? We're all musicians here. So anyways, that's all I have for today.